Okay,
It's,
I think we're here. We're live. Welcome to our weekly Terrarium dev stream. I'm Wayne. I'm one of the game designers and was the team lead for Terrarium, and I have been your guide on these weekly exciting streams that we're doing. And I'm joined today by Henry Faber, who, if you've watched our streams or followed us on Discord or, been paying attention to anything we've done recently, you might have some idea of who Henry is. He has been handling the current, what do we want to call it? You're getting Terrarium out the door. We've got a release
yeah,
date in the works for this summer, and Henry's overseeing production to get us to that point right now. So,
with a
Henry,
great team.
with a
With a
great team.
great team.
Henry, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we can talk about what we're going to look at today on stream.
Yeah. Thanks, man. So, yeah, I'm Henry Faber, and I run a not-for-profit collaborative workspace for independent game makers and digital artists called Gamma Space in Toronto, in the Toronto Media Arts Center. And that's in that way I get to meet a lot of different game developers and game creators in the Toronto community and also passing through Toronto, and it has led me to work on projects that have spanned like every possible platform and VR, and it's been really wonderful. And one of the best parts about this is I get to work with um, teams that like cross over into the community. So not only do I have people that I've worked with since they were like students or people that have like come to me in the community from like a really artistic background, they've also then go out into the workforce, and then I get to work with them in that capacity and bring all these worlds together. And as a result, we get really diverse teams doing really interesting projects and pushing things further in different ways. And so, in that respect, I get to work with a company like Stitch, who's a fantastic team and a company that's been doing lots of great digital media work for a long time. And when they first showed me Terrarium, I was really excited. I thought it could go places, and I've been really lucky to be involved at this stage to help sort of like get it out of its early access and get it into your hands so that you may murder garden explore until you can't take it anymore, with all the level creation and like all the different ways you can play this game. It's going to stick with you for a while. So I'm really excited to be here and to be involved with that project.
Great. And some of you may have watched or tuned into the Friends Play Game events, Friends Play Games event that Henry held. Was this past Monday? I think, right, Henry?
Yeah.
Through Gamma Space
Um,
was the first virtual version of that event, and we had three of the level creators from the shortlist join us and show their levels and talk about the process of creating those levels. That happened on Monday evening, and that was that was a great experience.
yeah, that is like indicative of like the kind of community event that we do at Gamma Space. It's the first time we've done such a thing online, and it was super rewarding. Like because I didn't know these can these competitors, right? Like they come from far away, from different schools outside of Toronto and stuff. So normally when we do an in-person event, on the site event, people do travel. They've come from all over to show off their games, and what happens is we eat pizza and we play each other's prototypes and games, and we play some games that we're currently playing that aren't ones that we're working on, and the public comes in, and it's a great time. And since our COVID reality, online stuff has become even more the norm. And while it's common to stream and to see games working, people like developers and companies and studios like show their work as in progress, like on little video clips on Twitter or on Instagram, or like stream just like we're doing today. Uh, it's still not the same as like having one-on-one feedback with a group of, or like with a small group of people. And so to be able to do that online and come up with a format that where that was sort of working with like doing it on Zoom and then streaming the results and having people talk about and share their screens, was really exciting. But in the case of Terrarium, because these competitors had submitted levels already, and they were talking about their work. It was like a in the context of level design and game design, and about their experience with that. And I think that that's really like the part that having that kind of like communal discussion of that, and then also like letting people participate in the chat that way, uh, it's really great. And it really really showcased the kind of like creativity and imagination, and not only that, but the different backgrounds that people have when they're approaching game development, game design, and level design.
Yeah, it was really amazing. Are you planning on holding any more? Like, I suffice to say, I think Monday night was a success. Uh,
Yes,
moving forward
thanks.
with like uncertainty around when we'll be able to open things back up and gather and do things again safely. Um, do you have plans to run any more of those events virtually, or what's
Yeah,
cooking?
so Gamma Space is a membership and based community. And normally it was like a co-working space, so they would often work in there. But we do a lot of different other things to connect members to community and resources and things. So we'll continue to weekly. We're going to do like a internal event where we're not streaming it for members and people who want to join, and we'll make it easy for people to do that. But once a month, I think the plan is to stream it. So it'll be friends play games online live. The live part being that's when we'll stream it. Whenever you see that word, and um, it'll give people an opportunity to kind of do well two things. One, get the community feedback, and it's open to anyone. And also, what I got some interesting feedback is some of the people that were on the stream had never been on a stream before, and so it felt like a comfortable way for them to participate because they didn't have to carry the whole show themselves, and they didn't have to like work the controls and do their game and talk. Was Wayne's become an expert in this, right? Like, but uh, and I've been always very impressed with like solo streamers who seem to be able to do like 10 things at once while like beating any high score I've ever had in anything. uh, but yeah, we're definitely going to do it. So we're probably going to aim for like the third Monday of the month for this. And anyone who's watching now, you'll be able to say, hey, I want to show off one of my work in progress, and you can get in touch with me. I'll put it in the chat here. You can get in touch with me at Henry at gammaspace.ca, and you can also find me
It's
on.
censored. I don't think you're allowed to share that in chat. You might need to
Oh, are you
type it
not?
creatively.
Oh yeah. Oh, I totally forgot.
Unless your email
Yeah.
is like Henry at ass or something. Henry
Yeah.
at
No.
poo.com.
And you can find me at Twitter, uh, like that, with a Oh, will it let me do that? There we go. Yeah, that's my Twitter.
There you go. So someone's
So
asking in chat, how do you join Gamma Space? Can you do it virtually? Is that the same
yeah,
advice for that? Just get in touch with you at one of these places and
actually, we recently updated our website. So if you go to gammaspace.ca, am I allowed to put that in chat?
try it. Maybe just put some
Games.
spacing. We'll get it in there eventually. The
Yeah, yeah,
chat's
I don't know.
no,
Yeah,
chat's not
so
exactly flying right now, so we'll take the time to get that in there somehow.
but if you go to Gamma Space, so you
Is it
can,
gammaspace.ca? I can probably do it as a
yeah.
moderator.
So we've turned off the full membership. It's actually reasonable if you are a developer doing this. It was like $75 a month, and you got to come into the space. But we would talk about people. We would talk to people beforehand and make sure that they were going to contribute to the community. Because like one of the things and when I mean contribute, I don't mean like you have to like do things for people, but contribute in a way that you weren't just taking, right? And this was something that's super important to the space because we work as a community, as a rule, very closely with groups like Games Making Games and like other arts organizations like Black Women Film and stuff like that, where we would work all together, and we have a really diverse group of an inclusive group of people that work there and work on projects together. So it's a real focus. So it's kind of like everyone has to go in with this idea and understanding that this is an open, respectful space to share, right? And so that is something that everyone has to agree to when they become members. And But the big benefit to membership right now, I think, if you're in, like, you can't come physically to the space, is that we have a Slack channel that's like a Slack workspace that's super active, with everyone sharing jobs and technical information and working on projects together. So that's like super useful. And I also offer office hours that members can book, and I offer like several slots a week, and other members do as well. And you can like set up those office hours, and we can talk about, hey, how do we finish your project, or how do I find funding, or how do I do this, get onto this platform. So this is something that I'm love to keep working with people on. And honestly, if I don't want money to be a barrier for anything, it just helps us prepare for coming back, is the only reason why it's an optional thing. I mean, I'll talk to me, we'll make it work, but for those who can't afford, who are working, like, who have solid jobs and game companies that support them, it's super helpful, because eventually we will be back in the space, and eventually we will be all working together again, and we want to make sure that these resources are still going to be available.
Yeah, I can attest, speak firsthand to the just how valuable that community aspect has been. You know, both events like Friends Play Games, just the various people that I've met at events there, the bit bazaars that you run are extremely fun, and I've just been exposed to so many cool things and interesting people through participation there. So good to see that they're still rolling virtually until it's safe again to get back in the space.
Yeah,
We
we're all
had
even thinking. I gotta say, Wayne,
yep.
we're even excited about doing something BitBazaar related later this year as well. I don't know. I mean, you're hearing it here first, but there is a plan to do something BitBazaar related.
Cool.
So yeah.
BitBazaar, for everyone in chat, is another event that is sort of a mix between a showcase for independent games and art projects, but also a marketplace for selling things that are related to those projects or homemade, and also kind of a party. The last few iterations that I went to, it seems to be ever evolving. Did I get that right, Henry?
Yeah, there's always a pretty major social component where we wrap with, like, well, it either naturally becomes a party, or we do something specific and involve. We've had like musicians play, and and stuff like that as well. So yeah.
Cool. We, I think, are shamelessly going to steal a little bit of the fire that we found at the last Friends Play Games with the Terrarium level designers, because we had a good response on Discord, and there were some people saying,
Oh, that's great.
can you guys hold an event like that, because more of us want to come on stream and look at our work. So I know Katie is thinking about that, and we're looking at a way to maybe on one of these streams host some of the people who've participated in the contest or design levels or done fan art or whatever, and showcase some of that here. So
I'd sure like to see more.
yeah.
So yeah, that's good.
Speaking of seeing more, why don't we look at this build today?
Yeah.
This is a development build, so this isn't something that is released to anybody who has access to the game on Steam. But what we wanted to do today is preview a few new features and improvements and things that are happening behind the scenes in preparation for our launch of the game, which is coming later this summer. We should have an announcement about a specific launch date soon. For now, all we can say is this summer. But as we mentioned at the top of the stream, Henry is heading the team right now that is making these improvements and getting the game wrapped up into its final form. So we just wanted to give you a sneak peek of a few of the things that are in a good enough ready state to show. So let's do that. I think most of what we're doing today is going to happen in Maker mode. Why don't we head to the Torrid Wilds?
Love those wilds.
I love those wilds. So right off the bat, I see this, which is an art variant of the Prime Specimen that until recently has been the same in every level. Do you want to speak to this at all? Like it is just an art variant, but I would say it really adds quite a lot to
Yeah,
the map variability of the maps and the look and feel and things like that.
yeah. One of the things that we've been wanting to do is to try to like do things that made sure that enemies and flora and like other things kind of like matched, like went in with the kind of style of the area, or at least the color palette. And one of the great details, so this Sally did this this pass on this, and it's super cool. The holes in the leaves,
Yeah.
like the because it's hot. Her idea was that she wanted to show that it was like burning through, and I just love that detail. And so that's an example of something we've done to make it just stand out and be part of that world
Looks like
a little bit more.
cartoon Swiss cheese to me. I want to eat
Yes,
it.
and but yeah, it's because we didn't want to look like it was burned, like like it was like in trouble. But it had some what is it, speed holes.
Speedles, eh?
Yeah, yeah, that's an ancient Simpsons reference for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about.
So we'll hop in the other maps at some point and see the other ones.
Yeah.
But each of the biomes now has their own prime specimen. They behave the same. They just look a little bit different. It's just some visual differentiation. We also have, when I switch Mugu, you'll notice new little effects that are happening on the Mugu. Just some bonus, like little hats, flame hats, goo hats.
Yeah.
There's been a number of little visual improvements like this. Just some extra juice on a lot of the animations and things that are happening in game.
And this has always been part of the plan. Like it's yes, juice and like polish and thinking about those things for those of you who are game makers. Like is something we're always thinking about, like to make it more appealing, and like crackle with energy, while you're playing it. But there's another more practical thing, which is like just finding ways to communicate visibility, and like to show that feedback, right? So juice isn't always about like making something uh, more dynamic visually. It can be used to help communicate things, and that's like a big part of that kind of change.
And while we're on the topic of Mugu, something here we have that I'm super excited about, which has come back from the original early access release of Terrararium, are Mugu fruit trees. So while Henry was talking, what I was doing was going into the Mugu settings for the level that I'm designing here, and you can choose what type of Mugu the player starts with. Previously, whatever you start with here for types, you're stuck with. But now we have an item that allows me to acquire new Mugu types during a level. So there's one type of tree for each type of Mugu. So right now I only have my thick Mugu if you look in the bottom right. But if I walk up to this tree with the gooey fruit, I can eat it and acquire a new type. So now I have thick and gooey. And I might as well go ahead and get spicy as well.
Yeah, this is a really nice thing for for those of you who don't know, like the big core of this game is the maker mode for you to really experiment and make really interesting levels that play around with these mechanics, right? But now you can really change up some of your design options, which I'm sure some of the level contest people are going to really like when they go back and play the game post, like at the time of release. But everyone will be able to enjoy this feature for sure. And it gives, Wayne and I talked about it. It was a feature that Wayne was a big part of Wayne's design. And at one point, we took it out only to streamline the possibility of getting started and balancing things. But we figured that once we got to the point where the game was fairly balanced, like in a general sense, it's okay if it starts getting a little lopsided once level designers want to experiment with it, right? And at that point, we reintroduced this feature so that they could play around and push their designs further.
Yeah, I always saw it as another way to, in a game where you're making your own levels and kind of like deciding what your narrative is going to be, it's another really strong way to add a bit of a narrative element to a level, just in terms of like having to get to point, you know, get to point C to get the Mugu type that lets you unlock point A. And it's just another way. I was blown away by the creativity that a lot of the level designers are already doing that in their levels, in terms of like, you know, using flaming bushes and spicy Mugu or exploding turnips to create gates that you have to unlock, and reasons to go back and forth across a map. I always saw these as another way to really do that, just to create a requirement you have to meet before you can progress in a level, or a reason to backtrack and pick something up. So I'm super happy that these are back. I also just love the design that we had for them. Just this like weird ruddy looking plant with like a single fruit growing off of it. So Mugu fruit trees.
Mugu fruit trees, not just for dinner.
Yeah, coming at release time. Another big improvement that is been long coming is an improvement to just the general feel and behavior of the targeting system. If you've been playing the game, I'm sure you've noticed that based on like the camera movement and where you move this target around, this visual for the target hasn't always been super accurate with where your Mugu is actually going to land. So Henry's team has spent some time tightening that up quite a bit, so that Mugu fly a little quicker when you shoot them, which is nice, but they're also going to land much closer to where the green target is. So whenever I do that, they'll go to where I'm shooting them, which sounds like a pretty basic thing, but for a number of reasons, that the visual didn't quite land up with where the trajectory of the shot would send the Mugu. So this won't really affect all of the things we're looking at today, where Henry is making extra sure, and we're doing a lot of playtesting to make sure don't mess up existing levels that anyone has designed, because we know how important that is. All this does is make those levels a little bit easier to play accurately, I think. But the feel of it is great.
Thanks. That's good. I mean, hearing you say that is really good. It makes the team feel happy. So I'm confident that the other players that have been following us on this journey are gonna feel that way too. So
we're gonna look at one more element of this, which I have to do with the mouse and keyboard, because like I said, these things are in development right now, so this doesn't work on the controller, which I use, but you'll notice the targeting line when I use the mouse auto change height to the top of this brick. So if I'm shooting here, they go there, and as soon as I scroll over the sandstone block, they will go on top of the block, and my targeting line changes to represent that, which I thought was pretty nifty. So yeah, targeting changes, just a big quality of life improvement that has been a long time coming, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What else can we look
I see your question, little kid. I can't talk about that right now.
Yeah. You won't catch us saying anything's committing to anything. We can look at a change to an existing monster.
This is worth saying.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to create a bit of a section here. So the turret bulb in the version that has been released publicly and that people have been playing with has sort of only been at like a half level of the functionality that we've wanted it at, and it's now getting much closer to where it should be. This red line around it is some temporary UI, but it's going to help illustrate what these do now. So they still have the same two variables that I can change when I place one, which is the distance, like how far can this thing possibly shoot. So right now you can see they get quite large, and how fast they shoot. Let me grab my Gardiner starting point and bring it over here Oh, it's so hard from the distance. Ah, there we go. So you'll notice when I get in the radius, it starts firing, and it shoots sort of like a random location within the circle that it has, but we now have these little shadows that show where the bombs are going to fall. So it just, again, it's a new... This does something none of our previous monsters have done. In the last version, these would shoot in a small area around them, and they could be quite deadly if you got close to them, but they weren't quite doing what ultimately we wanted them to. So this, I'm walked in this one radius right now, and you can see that, like, if I just stand still, I'm relatively safe until it randomly decides to shoot one on me. But what I've been playing around with is overlapping them. Also, the smaller you make the distance, the more deadly they can be with a high rate of fire, because it's more seed bullets in a smaller area. But in my testing, I've been messing around a lot with things like this, where you can just create like this big chaotic field of cannonballs, basically. And the shadows, I don't know, it can be fun to run through and try and avoid the shadows.
It's absolutely, like, it looks so intense. It's great.
So I don't know. I've had screens with 10 of these to create a little gauntlet where it's just this sort of like dodge and weave moment going through them.
Yeah, and a lot of that too, again, is communication, right? Like, just showing... It's not just increasing like the danger, but it's just showing how the danger works, which is super, or like why it's dangerous, and allowing the visual noise to still create some sort of excitement, but still, like, having that opportunity to actually recognize where the danger is and have it really clearly communicate to the player. We call these things, like, a lot of what we did in this last pass that Sally and Parth did were the tells, enemy tells.
So lining a few more up here. Here's another example of that. If you watch these two spitters here now, notice the one on the timer on the back, maybe it's under Henry's portrait on stream, has those like lava veins on it that, as it turns on and off, glow on and off now. Just, again, another visual representation that this thing is about to do something. Lights up when it's going to fire up, goes off when it's not. So just some more visual feedback for the player that this monster is doing something to help you navigate and play around them. Smashgrass, we added a more sort of like serious wiggle to, just to make them stand out a little bit more from some of the really like nefarious positioning we've seen with them. There's the
we learned that from some of our level contestants. Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, some of you were really good about hiding it in our decorative plant elements, and it was like, oh.
There's similar veins on the Cyclone Spitter. So yeah, these are, just a few examples of the little things that we're working on right now to try and bring the monsters to life a little bit more and give some more feedback about behaviors. Am I missing anything, Henry? What else was on the list that I should be showing right there? Is this the most...
the most, like, you can see with your eyes kind of stuff?
Yeah. That's a good
Let me think here for a moment. Let me go through the internal secret release,
because there are a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff that...
I've got it up right. It just so happens that I have it up right here.
I know that we've worked on some bugs with stacking items.
Stacking is really, it's worth seeing, actually, if you're experienced checking this out. Some of you more experienced level designers and people who've been participating in the contests will really appreciate how stacking works now.
Just easier to do, easier to line up. A little bit easier to like delete specific ones. So like building some of these big structures that you've been making should be not as infuriating.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I can delete the one I want to delete while I'm making
Look
a
at
giant
that.
castle. Right? That would just that would save hours of time.
Hours of time.
Hours of time. Boom. Look at that. I just made a little secret doorway. Just like that. Just like that. We fixed various little bugs with certain items, like, well, you can stack shroom evaders now. Only the top shroom evader will still work, I believe, but they're just like a number of little bugs that we've been finding from Discord with behaviors of certain things we've been improving.
Yeah, tons of little like small visual fixes too that you'll notice, like, you know, with textures and stuff like that. But I'm trying to think that there's one.
Did you pump this up a little bit too, right? I know we were
Which,
talking about making the Gardiners a little bit more visual when she's behind things.
Yeah,
Did that
look
happen?
at that.
This is brighter, right? Or
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah,
thicker
that's
lines?
one of our passes at it. But this is even that helps quite a bit.
Because originally we didn't have nearly as much verticality. The like doing things like this, the occlusion and highlighting the Gardiner behind things wasn't as essential. But since we added that feature and we see the things that people are building, it became apparent how important that was. So yeah, they're working on that as well.
One thing,
looks cool.
You got a splatterfly around?
Let me check if they're in this map or not.
I can't remember if they're in here.
Oh,
yeah, I don't remember.
So that still happens with the shroom evaders. If I stack shroom evaders,
yeah, that should still happen, but you know.
Here, do I get crushed? Oh, I only have the one Mugu type. I just kind of stop it. Let me see if I can get a splatterfly. Oops.
Yeah, it might not be on here. But it's an example. One thing I like about it has like an improved tell appearance that I think is really useful. Also, the Venus Tri-Trap, both those have had some improvements that I think people really appreciate.
This is a good opportunity to look at the ice.
Oh yeah, look at that.
So there's our
icy prime specimen.
Frosty prime specimen. And let's go ahead and place a splatterfly and go see what's up.
Yeah, so it's a small thing, but you can actually tell, I think, more clearly. One of the things we tried to do is which is the front end.
Right, it has a head, a bigger head now.
Yeah, and it actually makes a huge difference because, especially again, I think a lot of our level design participants.
Yep.
You know, sometimes I didn't know where I was going to get it from.
Yeah, it's true.
And this really, really helps with that. It's a small detail, but I think like one that really helps with the playability, and actually ultimately allows you to do more.
Yeah, it's true.
Fun levels, right?
You know how you can get around it because these things are nasty. Like they chase you when you get close to them. So knowing that it can't see me from the sides or the back and being able to identify where the head is one small thing that adds quite a bit of like counterplay to this element.
And the similar with the Venus tri plant has a similar kind of like it has a main head.
I think we have those in here, or do we? Yes, we do. Oh yeah, it has the big the big boy head now. Very piranha plant-esque.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and okay, we'll look at that in a second. Yep, looks much more like it's gonna eat me now. I like it.
And I think those are like the most. Almost everything else is a little bit more subtle and filled with things that we can't talk about yet that tie into the other cool things that are happening later.
Here's our pink.
Oh yeah, look at that! I love that. Look at that. He looks like gonna get you.
Feed me, Seymour.
Yeah.
Just for completion's sake, we'll vaporize my creation. We'll just compare. So there's the original. This is the prime specimen you're used to. So we've seen the variations now on those. Cool. So I mean, that's a lot of stuff. How much can we say about what's next? Because there's some stuff we're not showing that is in progress. These are the things we can show. What else do you want to say? You're most intimately working on this these days.
Yeah.
So what are you excited about?
Let me see if I can safely talk about something.
The fireworks have actually always been there, Argonian sandwiches. I wonder if they've been pumped up. Let me summon some fireworks.
We are revisiting a lot of that stuff right now, actually. So it might have been tweaked. We may not have made an official notice about that because it's on our list of things that we are. So there's something.
Actually, they look like they might be bigger than they were before.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Sally cranked them up.
Sally understands the juice.
Definitely.
Let's see here. Well, the real thing that's happening in the background right now that I'm really happy about is just how the campaign's coming together. Like the campaign mode and everything that entails, which I probably, I can't talk about, I guess. I don't know how much we can talk about the campaign.
I think you talk about that it exists.
It exists.
Because I think anyone, probably almost anyone watching this, or anyone who will potentially watch this on a VOD, has played a version of the game without really any of our own levels in it, or without any form of narrative. And, because we released a build focused almost entirely on the maker mode, which is the backbone of this game, because of the contest, but we do have the intentions of having it launch with a campaign that has a little bit of a story about the Gardiner and what she's doing and what the Mugu are and all these things. So we can say it's coming, and it tells a story.
Yeah, there is a definite story that I think people are going to think is amusing. It was some really nice moments in it. Where's this here? Okay, so let's see. A lot of what's coming up is going to be about the packaging around the game, but there's actually some pretty nice fixes coming to the how we're working with the GUI Mugu that I think people really appreciate. That is definitely worth highlighting and keeping an eye out for experienced people. They're going to want to look at that. But yeah, a lot of the other stuff I can't really talk about yet, which is actually kind of driving me a bit batty. I want to talk about it.
I guess we'll just have to tune in on future streams.
Yeah, I
see
think
what's up. So just to be clear, all the stuff we're looking at and the things we're being coy about, between now and the upcoming date later this summer when we launch the game out of early access. We're not planning on updating the early access build anymore. So all of these things are, full release things that are going to come when we launch out of early access. They'll be, unless something goes horribly wrong and like the game breaks somehow magically, we're not going to be updating the early access build between now and then. We're just solely focused on making this as good as we can between now and release. Are we getting an underwater level? I don't want to say yes, but yes, definitely. Right, Henry?
Yeah, we're actually got a license agreement with Snorks. I don't know if anyone knows what a snork is, but anyway, more importantly, actually, it's worth mentioning. I don't know if I'm hoping with Stitch's, blessing on this, that we will have a couple of builds that, while they won't be going into early access, maybe we'll get some help with, from the community, doing a little bit of testing and a little bit of checking things out just to get their feedback on it. Is that something that we're still thinking about, Wayne? Yeah. And is it okay that I said that?
I think it's fine. Yeah, we have talked about, as we get closer to release and we have some more release candidate builds, recruiting from the Discord some people to get access to our secret beta branch and help us test that if there's interest. So yes, we are still very much thinking of doing that. That would be the first time we've announced it anywhere.
So maybe that was inappropriate. I don't know, but I'm just excited because I know there's people here on the stream, that, and I like to make sure that that's still something people want to do. Hopefully, so because it's really valuable, and it makes the game more, ultimately more playable and fun for everyone, right? So, yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I definitely am. Man, I'm excited. I just want to look at these again. Look at these things. These juicy Mugu fruit trees.
Yeah, you love that.
I do. They're just satisfying. They look great in the bioluminescent too, where they really glow in the dark. Doesn't that look enticing?
Delicious.
Oh. Oh. Yeah, and I can't stress enough how much better the targeting and shooting feels. So just there's a bit of a speed increase, which makes a huge difference to just how quickly they fly through the air, and the accuracy is it's not a huge amount, but it's because it wasn't massively off before, but just you can shoot Mugu with so much more confidence. Oh, it feels so good. So yeah, these were primarily our objectives for this stream, was just to show off some of this stuff, talk a little bit about the Friends Play Games event, talk about some of the things that are still cooking between now and the release. The contest is still, of course, ongoing. The shortlist levels are off with the judges right now, being judged. So we'll be making some announcements about that on Discord soon, when we can expect to announce winners and how that process is going. Does the
judges are into it too, right, Wayne?
Yeah, we've had great feedback from the judges so far. We've had a few unsolicited messages just of how happy they are with what they've received, and how much the quality of it has sort of surprised them. She does still do her butt scratch, middle kid.
Don't worry.
I'm trying to show it. I'm going to go to not as dark of a biome so that you can see it a little more clear. Sun Hollow Grove. Here we go. We'll just idle on it while we finish talking. You can count how often she does it.
Yeah, I'll be tracking carefully because we might have to up the frequency.
I think where was I going? We have our next couple streams planned out. I believe we have a stream coming up with some of our art team, and we're going to sort of take a trip down memory lane and look at some concept art from various stages of the game, going all the way back to our first game jam, where everything was germs and bacteria, and we were just testing out some of the really, really early ideas we had around what these little beings did and what they behaved like before they were Mugu, and we just knew we wanted there to be lots of them and for them to die all the time and replicate and things like that. So we've been collecting a bunch of that stuff. We're going to be talking just about the process of making and implementing art and iterating art and figuring out how to fix things and locking down a look and all that kind of stuff. I'm not I think that might actually be next week. Someone in stream might be able to, in chat, might be able to confirm that. But yeah, we still have a bunch of weekly stuff planned to come on here and talk about. Is there anything you want to close on today, Henry?
Well, I want to, yeah, there will be other things that people will definitely like, new things as well. So I don't want people to think that they're not going to see other new stuff like as part of the regular programming as well as we get closer. But yeah, I mean, I got to tell you that everyone's support, and particularly like from the people who participate in the level design competition, like really inspired the team to really push like further than we were already all in, obviously, but like we really got inspired. So every time we get feedback that you like the way something works or you make a level that looks like just out of this world, it really does inspire the team. So thank you for
that's a good note.
We're gonna drink that and use it as fuel as we
all of these little things we've been looking at, many of them, if not all of them, are inspired by watching the Discord and getting feedback and seeing what people are saying and asking for, and seeing how people are using the features that already exist, and it definitely informs the process quite a bit. So I mean, the goal is just to make it better for everyone, right? So wouldn't be possible without all of the dedication that we've had through the course of this contest to just use the level builder and play the game. So yes, definitely thank you.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap up again then. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll be back again next Friday. Thank you, Henry, for being here today and talk us through all this stuff. Remember, you can go to gammaspace.ca if you want to learn more about Gamma Space, the events they run, and what goes on there, or how you can potentially become a member. And at Henry Faber on Twitter if you want to follow Henry in the public eye.
I'm all too reachable there, so if you've got questions, it's a good way to get a hold of me too.
Okay, thank you everyone. We will see you on Discord and again next
Thanks,
Friday.
Wayne.
Thanks, Henry.